Today, I stumbled across something interesting, and honestly, I had one of those moments where you look at a boat and you think, wait, how have I never heard of this thing before? Because sitting down in Mexico, currently listed through O'Day Yachts, is a 1986 O'Day 40. And if you're anything like most sailors today, the name O'Day probably rings a very faint bell. Maybe you remember a little O'Day 22, they were very popular. Maybe someone in your marina had an O'Day 25 back in the day. But a 40-foot full-fledged cruising sailboat? That's where things get interesting because believe it or not, O'Day was once one of the largest sailboat manufacturers in the United States. And the O'Day 40 was essentially their final swing at building a serious offshore cruising boat for a company that has now disappeared entirely. And when you start digging into the history, the design lineage, and what owners actually say about these boats, you start to realize this thing might be one of the greatest hidden cruising boats of the 1980s. Stick around to the end because I'll fill you in on my personal story about how an O'Day tried to kill me. First, let's talk about the company. O'Day Yachts was founded in 1958 by George O'Day, who wasn't just some businessman trying to sell you fiberglass sailboats. He was actually an Olympic gold medal sailor and a world champion racer. So right from the beginning, this wasn't a marketing ploy. It was a sailor building sailboats for other sailors. The company really exploded in the 60s and 70s, producing huge numbers of affordable sailboats. Boats like the Day Sailor, which sold over 12,000 units and is now in the American Sailboat Hall of Fame. But most of O'Day's lineup was smaller cruising boats, think 20 to 30 feet, family boats, weekend sailors, and lake boats. They were the Catalina of their era, producing accessible fiberglass boats that normal people could afford to buy. In 1966, the company was sold to a giant American conglomerate called Bangor Punta. You may have heard of them because they also owned builders like Cal Yachts and even owned Jeanneau for a time. And that corporate connection is where things start to get really interesting. Because during the early 1980s, O'Day started working with European designers, particularly the French naval architect Philippe Briand, who you might recognize today as one of the biggest names behind modern performance cruisers. The result of that relationship was the O'Day 39, which was essentially an American-built adaptation of the Jeanneau Sunfizz lineage. Then in 1986, they refined that design into what we're looking at today, the O'Day 40. Only about 180 of them were ever made, making them relatively rare boats on the market now. So let's talk about the design itself while I show you a tour of the boat I found for sale. This O'Day 40 is down in Mexico at O'Day Yachts. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go check it out because it's for sale. On paper, the O'Day 40 looks like a very typical mid-1980s cruising boat. Length overall about 39.5 feet. Beam 12.5 feet. Displacement roughly 18,000 pounds, of which 6,600 is ballast. It's a masthead sloop with about 700 square feet of sail area, powered by a 46-horse Westerbeek diesel. In other words, this is not a light racing sled, but it's also not a heavy full-keeled tank either. It lives right in that sweet spot of moderate displacement cruising boats, which tend to translate into boats that are fairly forgiving, easy to learn on, comfortable offshore, and still capable of moving when the wind drops below 15 knots. Comfort ratio lands at 26.96, suggesting it to be a coastal cruiser, with a capsize screening of 1.93, a comfortable margin under 2. And the hull design actually came from C. Raymond Hunt Associates, which is a pretty respected design firm in the boating world in that era. These guys were known for hulls that behave well in the waves, which is exactly what owners happen to say about this boat. When you dig into the owner reviews, the sailing characteristics get pretty consistent praise from everybody. One owner review notes, the boat sails well on all points of sail and has a very light helm, with the rig designed so reefing is pretty straightforward and manageable. Owners also mention the boat seems happiest in about 12 to 15 knots of breeze, where it settles into a comfortable groove. At around 18,000 pounds, the boat has enough mass to push through the chop instead of bouncing off the top of it, which is exactly what you want if you're doing some coastal cruising or island hopping through the Bahamas. Hull speed works out to around 7.7, which is right where most 40-foot cruisers of this era end up. So performance-wise, nothing really revolutionary, but solid, predictable, comfortable, and that's actually a recurring theme with this boat. Now, where the O'Day 40 really starts to shine is in its layout. The interior was designed during the era when cruising boats were starting to transition from narrow, traditional cave interiors into more spacious Euro-style layouts. So you get 6'5" headroom, a large U-shaped saloon, a big central table, and actually quite a bit of volume for a boat this size. Forward is a proper V-berth cabin. Aft, there's a surprisingly large double berth tucked under the cockpit. The galley is right at the companionway where you'd want it if you're cooking underway. And many boats even had two heads, which in a 40-footer from the mid-80s was a pretty big deal. Another detail I really like is the sugar scoop transom with a swim ladder. Today that's sort of standard, but in the 1980s it was actually a bit ahead of its time and makes boarding from the water a lot easier, especially with groceries. Now, before we all run off and buy one of these things, we should probably talk about the realities of this boat, because the O'Day 40 is not a full-on blue water battle wagon. Several owners describe it pretty accurately as a coastal cruiser with some ambition. In other words, could it cross an ocean? I mean, sure, but it wasn't designed with that same level of structural conservatism that you'd see in something like a Pacific Seacraft or a Valiant. Like most production boats from the 80s, it uses a fiberglass structural grid bonded to the hull, and surveyors often recommend inspecting that bonding around the keel area carefully if the boat's ever been grounded, or really, at this age, always inspecting it carefully. The deck on these was balsa cord, which was standard, but means you want to check hardware for leaks, especially stanchions and deck fittings. Bring your moisture meter if you go see this thing. Original port lights also tended to leak after decades in the sun, which many owners have replaced. And because the mast is deck stepped, you want to make sure the compression post and the structure under it are still solid. None of these are really deal breakers. They're just the kind of things surveyors expect to find in a 40-year-old production cruiser. And here's where things get interesting again. Despite all of this, the O'Day 40 has quietly built a cult following. There are active owners communities online and plenty of long-term owners who absolutely love these boats. And when you read through their comments, you start seeing the same themes. They're easy to sail, comfortable to live aboard, and perhaps most importantly, they tend to be very affordable compared to similar boats, which is why the O'Day 40 sometimes shows up on lists of blue water boats on a budget. It's not the toughest boat in the ocean, but it might be one of the biggest boats you can buy for this kind of money. This one's only 50 grand. So who's this boat actually for? In my opinion, the O'Day 40 is perfect for someone who wants to do things like coastal cruising, island hop the Caribbean, or live in a marina, or maybe do the occasional offshore passage with the boat being very well prepared. It's big enough to be comfortable, but still small enough to be manageable for a couple, and cheap enough to appeal to a wide audience. And if you think you're the kind of sailor who doesn't care about brand prestige or just wants a good, capable cruising boat, this might be one of the better sleeper deals out there. But pick it up before somebody else does. I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever sailed on an O'Day? Would you trust one of them offshore? Or is this one of those boats that's better suited for coastal adventures? Let me know in the comments. And my own story about the O'Day. My friend had, I think it was a 27, and the way O'Day does the coamings on either side of the cockpit, they're on an angle so that when the boat's heeled, everything on the high side is level, which makes a lot of sense until you're trying to step out of the boat onto a dock and you don't realize it's going to be sloped and it's dark out. So I had a really bad fall and actually cut up my back pretty bad because of O'Day's sloping coamings. And their seats are sloping too, so that everything on the high side is always level, but sitting level, you have to get used to it. And I guess owners say that you do get used to it. Also, if you want something a little more ocean going, have you seen this article, the Moody 46cc used boat review? This Bill Dixon design from the 1990s combines superb liveaboard comfort with true blue water capability, making it a great choice for those chasing serious time and miles at sea. This is an excellent read about an excellent boat. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. While you're here, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out, but also it lets YouTube know that you like sailboat videos, so it'll show you more of them. How cool is that? And hit subscribe so we can see you again next time.